The female billionaire dropped her coffee, and the porcelain cup shattered across the polished marble floor. Around her, dozens of guests gasped in disbelief. Her daughter, who had not taken a single step in almost 6 years, was running across the sunlit charity courtyard with tears streaming down her face. Doctors had called it impossible. Specialists had called it a miracle. But what froze everyone in place was not the fact that the little girl was running. It was who she was running toward. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to our channel. Every story shared in our community reminds us that compassion can change lives in ways we never expect. The bright spring afternoon had begun like every carefully planned public event hosted by billionaire entrepreneur Vivian Hartwell. Reporters filled the courtyard. Investors mingled beneath white tents. Cameras followed her every movement. She was one of the wealthiest women in Europe, known for building a global technology empire from almost nothing. Magazines called her fearless. Business leaders called her brilliant. Yet behind every smiling photograph was a private heartbreak she carried alone. Her 12-year-old daughter, Penelope, had been paralyzed after a devastating car accident 6 years earlier. The accident had taken the life of Penelope's father and left the little girl unable to walk. Vivian had spent millions searching for treatments. She had flown specialists from around the world to examine her daughter. Every possible therapy had been attempted. Some offered small improvements. None restored her ability to walk. The loss transformed Vivian into a different person. She became colder, harder, more distant. She buried herself in business because work was the only place where effort still produced results. Money could build companies. Money could solve corporate crises. But money could not heal her daughter's broken body. That morning, Penelope had arrived in her wheelchair beside her mother, smiling politely for photographers before retreating to a quiet area near the garden. Vivian was occupied with speeches and meetings when something unusual happened. Near the edge of the event stood a man nobody seemed to notice. His name was Callum Mercer. He wore faded jeans and a simple blue shirt. His appearance was unremarkable except for his calm eyes. Beside him sat his 8-year-old daughter, Elsie, who was drawing flowers in a notebook while her father volunteered with the charity event. Most people assumed Callum was just another volunteer. Nobody knew he had once served as a Navy SEAL, nobody knew he had spent years carrying wounds that could not be seen, and nobody knew he had intentionally disappeared from public life after a mission that changed everything. Several years earlier, Callum had lost his wife to cancer. After dedicating much of his life to military service, he suddenly found himself raising a grieving daughter alone. The transition was brutal. He struggled financially. He battled guilt and loneliness. Yet he remained determined to give Elsie a life filled with love rather than bitterness. Unlike many people, Callum never viewed brokenness as weakness. He understood pain because he lived with it every day. While Vivian addressed donors from a stage, Penelope quietly wheeled herself toward the garden. There, she noticed Elsie drawing flowers. The two girls began talking. Within minutes they were laughing. Callum watched from nearby with a gentle smile. For nearly an hour, Penelope remained beside Elsie. It was the happiest Vivian had seen her daughter in months. Then something happened. Penelope asked if she could try standing. Callum hesitated. The girl had made similar attempts countless times before, each ending in disappointment. But there was something different in her eyes. With careful patience, Callum knelt beside her wheelchair. He encouraged her without pressure. No promises. No false hope, just belief. The courtyard remained busy and noisy as Penelope gripped the armrests. Slowly she pushed herself upward. Her legs trembled violently. A nearby therapist happened to notice and rushed closer. Then Penelope took one step, another, then another. The courtyard fell silent. People turned, conversations stopped, phones rose into the air, and before anyone fully understood what they were seeing, Penelope began moving faster. She was not running perfectly, she was stumbling, wobbling, laughing, crying. But she was moving under her own power. Across the courtyard she raced directly toward Callum. That was the moment Vivian froze. The world seemed to stop around her. For years she had searched for a miracle through money, influence, and expertise, yet the breakthrough had happened during a simple conversation. In a garden between two children and a volunteer nobody noticed, doctors later explained that years of therapy had gradually restored more function than anyone realized. Fear had become the final barrier. Penelope had stopped believing her body could succeed. Something about that afternoon had unlocked the courage she needed to trust herself again, yet Vivian could not stop thinking about Callum. She needed to understand him. Over the following weeks, she invited him and Elsie to several charity functions. Callum declined most invitations, that he preferred quiet afternoons with his daughter over luxury events. That intrigued Vivian even more. Nearly everyone wanted something from her. Callum wanted nothing. Eventually she convinced him to meet for lunch at a community center where he volunteered. There she discovered a side of him that few people knew. Callum spent most of his free time mentoring struggling teenagers, helping veterans recover from trauma, and organizing food drives for families facing hardship. He never sought recognition. He never posted about his work online. He simply showed up, again and again. Vivian found herself increasingly drawn to his authenticity. At first she believed she was simply grateful, then she realized it was much deeper. For the first time since her husband's death, she felt genuinely seen, not as a billionaire, not as a public figure. As a human being. But their growing friendship faced unexpected resistance. When the media learned about their connection, headlines exploded, commentators mocked the relationship, some accused Callum of pursuing wealth, others claimed Vivian was exploiting a heartwarming story for publicity. The criticism became relentless. Reporters followed Callum, strangers questioned his motives, old photographs from his military career surfaced online. Soon another secret emerged. Years earlier, Callum had been involved in a classified mission that ended in controversy. Although cleared of wrongdoing, he had become a convenient target for political criticism. The internet quickly resurrected old accusations. Sponsors threatened to withdraw support from Vivian's foundation. Board members urged her to distance herself. They believed Callum represented a risk. For a moment, Vivian considered listening. Her company employed thousands of people. One scandal could damage years of work. But then she remembered the day her daughter ran. She remembered who stood beside Penelope when nobody else was paying attention, and she remembered that courage means very little when it only appears during easy moments. Instead of abandoning him, Vivian publicly defended Callum. The decision shocked everyone. Investors panicked, stock prices dipped, news networks predicted disaster. Yet something remarkable happened. Ordinary people began sharing stories. Veterans spoke about Callum's kindness. Families described how he had quietly helped them during difficult times. Former students credited him with changing their lives. Single parents praised the support he had given them without seeking recognition. The louder the criticism became, the more stories emerged. A picture of the real Callum slowly replaced the false narrative. Meanwhile, Penelope and Elsie became inseparable. The girls spent countless sunny afternoons together. Penelope continued improving physically. Her confidence grew stronger every week. For the first time in years, she talked about future dreams instead of limitations. Watching the girls transformed Vivian, she realized she had spent years surviving rather than living. She had built walls around her heart to protect herself from more pain. Those walls had also prevented joy from entering. One afternoon during a charity event at a lakeside park, another unexpected challenge arrived. A sudden emergency unfolded when a young boy became trapped beneath a partially collapsed wooden structure near the shoreline. Panic spread instantly. People screamed. Several adults rushed forward but hesitated. The damaged beams looked unstable. Without thinking, Callum sprang into action. Years of military training returned immediately. He organized volunteers, secured the area, and crawled beneath the structure himself. For several tense minutes, everyone watched helplessly. Finally he emerged carrying the frightened child safely in his arms. The crowd erupted in applause. News cameras captured everything. For the first time, millions witnessed not the rumors or headlines but the character of the man himself. Public opinion shifted dramatically. The same outlets that questioned his motives now celebrated his courage. Yet Callum remained unchanged. After ensuring the boy was safe, he simply returned to helping clean up the event. That humility affected Vivian more than any heroic act. Months passed. Summer sunlight filled the days. Penelope eventually walked without assistance. Doctors called her progress extraordinary. Vivian called it a gift. One afternoon she visited the small house where Callum and Elsie lived. The home was modest but filled with warmth. Family photographs covered the walls, drawings decorated the refrigerator, laughter echoed through every room. Standing there, Vivian realized something money had never taught her. Wealth can purchase comfort that it cannot create belonging. Callum had built a family from loss that he had transformed grief into compassion that he had taught his daughter that strength and kindness can exist together. Most importantly, he had helped Penelope believe in herself again. As autumn approached, Vivian announced a major initiative. Supporting veterans, single parents, and children recovering from traumatic injuries. She named the program after hope itself rather than any individual. When reporters asked why, she explained that no single person creates miracles. Communities create them. Families create them. Ordinary acts of kindness create them. The program became one of the most successful charitable efforts in the country's history. Its impact reached thousands of lives, but the greatest change happened within the Hartwell family. Vivian laughed more, Penelope smiled more. Their home no longer felt haunted by the past. It felt alive. Years later, people would still remember the famous moment when a paralyzed girl ran across a courtyard. Many called it a miracle, others called it medical progress, but those closest to the story understood something deeper. The real miracle was not that Penelope learned to walk, the real miracle was that broken people found each other and discovered healing together. Before we reach the end of this journey, leave a meaningful comment sharing what touched you most about this story. Do you believe one act of kindness can change the direction of someone's entire life? On a bright afternoon exactly 1 year after that unforgettable charity event, families gathered again in the same courtyard where everything had begun. Children laughed among the flowers. Volunteers served meals. Veterans shared stories. Single parents supported one another. It felt less like an event and more like a family. Penelope walked confidently through the crowd holding Elsie's hand. Vivian stood nearby, watching with grateful tears in her eyes. Across the courtyard, Callum smiled quietly as sunlight warmed the garden where a frightened little girl had once found the courage to stand. The pain of the past had not disappeared, the losses remained real, the scars remained visible, but those scars no longer defined them. Hope did, love did, community did, and as the afternoon sun illuminated the faces of people whose lives had been changed forever, everyone present was reminded that the strongest hearts are often the ones that have been broken and healed again. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey, because sometimes the greatest miracles are not found in wealth, power, or fame. Sometimes they begin with a simple act of kindness between strangers, and grow into a future filled with hope, forgiveness, second chances, and the kind of love that changes lives forever. If you'd like, I can also